Hello, this week I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to show you how you can pick the flowers and plants either in your garden or if you're out foraging and easily turn them into all sorts of works of art using a process that goes back to the 19th century. A cyanotype is an early form of photography where paper or fabric is coated in a solution that reacts with the UV rays and sunlight to create a permanent image. It was first used as architects' plans known as blueprints, but naturalists soon adopted it to take photographs of plants. Anything with an interesting outline is suitable as the process creates a silhouette of blue and white. See my blog mentioned below for more details. And then alliums look absolutely amazing. You often get, because they're so sort of springy and bouncy, you often get a little bit of movement, but I don't mind that because I think that sort of gives life to a piece. I think this one's Atropurpureum and this one's Christophii. And a very traditional thing to use is ferns, because Anna Atkins, who was one of the first people who used this technique to photograph the natural world, did a lot with algae and with ferns. And I don't think it was by her, but I was looking at some early writing about cyanotypes and I came across somebody who had just taken a page out of a book and put a fern on it, and that's what I'm going to try and reproduce today. And I've got this beautiful painted fern. I would tell you the Latin name, but it escapes me, and the Japanese shield fern. They're quite similar because they're both very lacy, so you should be able to get all those little details coming out in the print. I'm in my studio now and I thought I'd just run you through the chemicals. They're two iron compounds called ferric ammonium citrate and potassium ferrocyanide, which sounds quite sinister, but you have to be careful. You have to respect them like you would with bleach, but they're not nasty, they're not toxic. And you can either buy them in the powders or you can buy them ready made up into solutions, but I tend to use the powders. This was a kit I got once and then I carried on using the bottles because they're useful because they exclude the light, and because they're light sensitive you have to be careful with it. You don't have to even do this stage. You can buy fabric and paper already prepared, and I'll put details in the description box. You just have to weigh it out carefully and then use twice as much to that, which is why you get more of it. And once it's made up, even once it's already mixed, as long as you keep it away from light, it should be viable for quite a long time. This I did make a while ago, so I'm not absolutely sure it's going to work. I've got some fabric already prepared. I've got a couple of pieces just of blank fabric. I've got some I've already done some printing on because what I really like is to sort of build up different layers. And I'm using this rather lovely silk fabric that I use to make my ribbons, and I haven't actually used that for printing before, and it's so fine, it seems to take the detail really well, so I'm quite excited to try that out. But because you have to keep sunlight away until you're ready to expose your fabric or paper, I normally do this down in my garage with the door just slightly ajar so I can see what I'm doing. Because I'm doing it here, I need to be able to show you, but I am going to change the lighting a bit. I'm going to pull the blind down and put some artificial light, because as long as it's not got UV in it, you should be okay. So fingers crossed, you'll still be able to see me and it will work. Okay, so I'm just putting some gloves on, just to be careful with the solution. And I hope you can see me okay. I've turned up the white balance on the camera, so it's probably much dimmer in real life than it looks on the camera. And I've got an old jam jar and I've got my two solutions that I hope are still going to be viable. And I'm not quite sure how much I've got here, but you put about half and half, and it looks a sort of greeny browny colour, which doesn't look at all like the colour it's going to be, so don't be alarmed by that. Okay, now it's what I've done. I've got a couple of pieces pinned onto, you can just put it onto paper. The reason I'm not doing that is that the paper tends to absorb a lot of the solution, and I find it a little bit wasteful. So I've got fabric on a frame, and I've got these pinned to just an old bit of polystyrene. I have put a couple of pieces of paper underneath, so if enough of the solution goes through, then I can use the paper as well, so not wasting any at all. And then all you have to do, give it a good mix. I'm just using an old paintbrush that the brush bits come out. It's always useful. And you can use an ordinary paintbrush. I quite like these foam rubber on a stick things because you just get a better sort of contact with the fabric. And you don't have to pin them on. This is just an introduction. There's so many different facets. It's such a fascinating way of printing. I like to have quite an even background to what I then do with the print, but you can actually make that part of the design. You could do it in brush strokes where you're not completely covering the fabric. See, this is using the silk, which I haven't used before, and it's picking it up really well. But you can see it's this rather, but just even that bit there where it's kind of gone to an edge, that might actually affect the design. So just try and get it, if you want an even and smooth effect, just do it as quickly as you can. You can manipulate the fabric first. Right, move this one over. So that's the silk, and this other one is cotton. And as I say, I'm just going to do it as evenly as I can. So I'm going to not talk, and I'll probably speed this up because it's probably not that interesting to watch. So that was nice and quick, wasn't it? So I'll put that to one side. But I'm going to leave them up here for now. But I've got a big piece of opaque plastic, and I'm going to prop them up in the corner behind the door, and I'm going to cover them with this so that just to keep them safe. Because even in the garage, if I've done a lot and I haven't exposed them all in one go, even though the garage hardly lets any light in, over a period of time there's enough light in, and you go in and then you realise they've all turned blue. So you do have to be careful. And if you send away for any fabric or paper that's, comes a commercial one, it usually comes in something covered like that. So that's this stage, and join me for the next stage. It's best to have full sunlight, but it will work under light cloud on a bright day. If you're using freshly made solution, the process can happen really quickly, but I realised mine had weakened a bit after several months, so Ailey and I had to be very patient. You can see the transformation as the green gradually turns into blue. I've had to speed it up here because of the weak solution, but it often only takes a couple of minutes. When your paper or fabric has turned a good strong blue, you need to take it somewhere shady and remove the plant material. Here is a sample where I use damp fabric and what it looks like with the fern removed. You then need to rinse out the residue and let it dry. As it dries, it will oxidise and go a darker blue. The first couple were a bit faded, but the ones with the freshest solution are much better. Here are some other examples of cyanotypes I've made, some of which have had embroidery added to them. And there are other things you can do to change the colour if you don't want to just do blue. You can see details of this on my blog. I hope you found this interesting and you might be inspired to have a go yourself.